to the Titletown Talk series. Today, I think we have a topic you guys can all relate to, so I hope you stay for the whole video. We're going to talk about those little aches, pains, and injuries that just make life no fun. Over the years working here, I've picked up a few tricks that I want to share with you tonight from some of my amazing coworkers and some amazing people I get to work with as clients. And I want to share those with you and how they found success. Now there's a million different things we can go through. We're just going to try to cover them shortly because they told me a short video. So as my daughter says, I'm going to try to give you as many life hacks as I can, and hopefully they work for you. My name is Nick Winkler. I'm a licensed athletic trainer here at Titletown. I've been here for 17 years. I've also worked as a certified strength and conditioning specialist, worked with some pretty amazing athletes. And then I also am a movement specialist. I have a specialization in biomechanics. So I have some special training where I can identify the way people move and find the patterns that may be attributing to their aches and pains. So tonight what I want to do is go through some of those different concepts that I see when someone comes in. If someone tells me they're having an ache or pain in a certain area, before we go into like treating that area, we have to ask ourselves, why does it hurt there? Why does it hurt there, and why does that area doing more work than what it should? If that area is doing more work than what it should, or maybe the wrong kind of movement, can we correct that movement first and treat the pain at the same time so we can not have that pain come back or not come back as much? So a couple things, and I want to talk about that we use to address that. We talked about movement pattern correction, but foam rolling and stretching is very beneficial. There are ways to get the most out of it though, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about today. Some of you guys might know this, some of you might not. I'm sure some of you guys can even comment down below with any questions or comments and find things that you're like, hey, I also know this stretch is pretty cool. Add them down below. Let's all work together on this. But foam rolling is like your own personal massage therapist. So a foam roller, most of you guys are swearing at this thing right now. It works and only bothers those people that need it. So if it's a muscle is tight and sore, just like if you went to a massage therapist and they got in there and really dug into that tight muscle, you got to take your time on a foam roller to really let it settle in. And you need to spend the time in the biggest part of the muscle. Even if it's sore, a little lower or a little part above that muscle, the biggest part of the muscle is going to give you the best bang for your buck to get that muscle to relax, okay? Next is stretching. There's many different ways to stretch. I'm going to show you a few simple ones tonight with a few quick tips on how to make those stretches even better. And then we're going to cover different joints and look at a couple different movements, okay? So, moving forward, a couple common injuries. Knee pain, let's cover first. I want to cover these concepts, okay? So, when something hurts somewhere, I typically look right away of what muscle is acting on that area. So you tell me that your knee hurts right underneath your kneecap or right on your kneecap, I'm going to look to the quad above it. And I'm going to look to see if it's tight first up above. 2, if you tell me that the muscle hurts on the side of your knee, or the side of your knee hurts, or the side of your hip hurts, I'm going to look to the muscle that attaches up above and try to get that to release a little bit. And also if it hurts on the inside of your knee, I'm going to look to that groin. We can control that. Yes, there could be meniscus, there could be arthritis going on in your knee, there could be growing pains. All those things happen, right? But if we say that's all we can do about it, it's just growing pains, it's just arthritis, there's things we can work on to try to reduce those symptoms, okay? So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through some of these exercises, a way to foam roll your quad, a way to foam roll your groin, a way to foam roll your IT band. And I'm going to mask back up, and my intern Jonas is going to come out, and we're going to hang out, and we're going to go through some of those so you can see them, and hopefully maybe pick up a few tricks that you don't quite know. Okay, Jonas, come on in. So the first one we think about, hey Jonas, hey everybody, right? So the first one we think about is if I hold my finger here if I have knee pain down here and I take and try to tighten this up, it's pulling at where my finger is. So it's telling me that the pain might end up being down here, but this tightness might be contributing to it, okay? So what I'm going to have Jonas do is face me And I'm going to have you foam roll your left quad, because let's say his left knee was bothering him. So in the class I talk about, my next level class, there's some ACL kids in there, and they'll say, yeah, Nick, my knee's a little sore. One common thing we'll have them do is foam roll their quads. Jonas, why don't you go down on your elbows too? So foam rolling your quads is kind of you can go single leg, double leg. There's things you have to think about with all foam rolling. One, it gets worse before it gets better. They ask me, how long should I foam roll for? It really shouldn't be more than 5 minutes on a muscle group, because it's just, you're torturing yourself. But two, it gets worse before it gets better, and when it starts to get better, you can be done. So that's a good rule of thumb. That muscle starts to release. And also, the slower you go, and if you stop on a muscle that's sore, a certain part that's sore, it'll release faster than just trying to go back and forth and getting it done. You can see Jonas is taking his time. He must have found a knot in there, huh? He's feeling it, right? All right, so that's quad, okay? Now, we're gonna get moving so we don't spend too much time in this video, but I'm gonna show you 2 different quad stretches then. Jonas, if you can use that wall, our fake wall we have there, and I'm gonna have you stretch your quad, and that's your left. So actually use this, I changed my mind. So use that, and stand and stretch your quad here, and hold that. Now we all know this one, but there's a few tricks to this. One is that if we extend our back, we're not actually stretching our quad. So I want you, Jonas, to tighten your core and squeeze your glute. Do you feel your stretch intensifying? Yeah. Yes. Now, this is a good time to point out his face, what made a face, okay? And what we want to do is a stretch should never hurt. We can hold it 20, 30 seconds, that's okay, but it should never hurt. It should be a moderate intensity. One of my coworkers who works in our free injury clinic downstairs, which is available to all you guys, says you should be able to hold a stretch for 30 minutes. Not that you would, but you could hold it for 30 minutes. That's the intensity that you'd want to work a stretch with. Then the muscle tends to relax. If we go into a stretch and just pull as hard as we can, it must be a good stretch, it hurts so much, the muscle will fight against us. So we don't want that, okay? So that's quad acting on the joint below it in the front, right? That was 1. 2, we talked about growing, okay? So we talked about, hey, it's hurting on the inside of my knee, okay? That's a tendon. It also could be your MCL, but let's work on what we can work on. So foam roll your groin. This one, people are like, how do I foam roll this thing? Jonas is going to show you. You actually lay sideways. The foam roll is parallel to your body. And you just roll up and down, okay? Again, keeping your core tight so that you don't arch your back. And you go again, real slow on the inside of the groin. And what it does starts to release that groin a little bit. When that happens, since the groin is a muscle that actually sometimes likes to overwork when the glute doesn't want to work the way it's supposed to, we want to make sure that one's loosened up. Okay, so then, again, stretching for that. I think we all know, and Jonas will test, that you can stand and just stretch your groin. So you know a groin stretch, right? So you stand, so he foam rolled that right side. So now he's doing step 2, which is leaning over a little bit to that side. Not bouncing, okay? And also I'm gonna have Jonas stick his butt back just a little bit more. Right there. Feel that change it a little bit? Yeah. You still want to pretend, and this is one of those key little tricks, that you're between 2 walls here, so you're not leaning all the way to the front like this, okay? It's leaning over to the side. That's where you're going to feel it, okay? If you don't feel it, you go a little wider with your leg, okay? Now this is probably the one that is my favorite to teach people, because everyone has heard, or most people have heard, well, I just hate foam rolling my TFL or my IT band. I hate foam rolling my IT band. It's just so tight, it hurts so much. I would agree. I wouldn't want to foam roll that band because that band is really tight. It doesn't really stretch much. But what does is the muscle right here. So Jonas, if you feel on the side of your hip, so you'll feel the bone up on top, kind of by your belt, and you feel the bone down on the side of your hip here. If you go in between that and push, kind of right where my pocket is here, that's your TFL. Your kind of hip flexors in the front, just over a little bit is your TFL, okay? That muscle is what we want to release. If we can release that muscle a little by foam rolling and stretching it, it actually will alleviate, and I've seen it, alleviate pain all the way down the side of your knee. Loosen this, you're not pulling so much here. Tighten this, and all of a sudden it starts to tighten that area down by my knee, okay? So Jonas, I want you to, lay on your side. He's going to lay on his side. He's going to find that spot. He's going to make sure he doesn't roll over any of those bones I had him poke on there. And two things we can do here. Real slow movements or stop. And he can also go forward and back until he finds that fiber that's actually tight and roll on that one. Okay? Again, time is dictated by how tight you are and how sore it is. Okay? Now if you stand up for me, now we're going to show you how to stretch your left side. Okay? So Jonas, what I want you to do is you're going to stand here, step on your left, and cross over. Weight is still all on your left. Hips are forward, and you stick it out to the side and lean over. Okay? Do that for me. So he stepped on his left, he leaned over. Now, what some people do wrong is they'll get in this position, and instead of keeping everything in line here, they'll actually sit back. And sitting back really doesn't, it changes it, right, Jonas? You didn't feel it anymore. No. You have to stay between these two walls that are right here, imaginary walls. Some people don't feel it much there. So what I want you to do differently this time is I want you to cross your feet the other way. Okay? So, yep. There you go. Now what I want you to do, instead of leaning out, I want you to lean that right hip in. The other way. There you go. So what he's trying to stretch now is his right side, leaning it in. And same thing. Hips forward is kind of that trick to get the most out of that. Okay? Make sense?
Yep.
All right. So from there, there's lots of other knee things. The other thing I would talk about is when people talk about arthritis. Arthritis, to me, is more of the knee's supposed to bend just like this. If it's starting to twist, we want to make sure that that's not somewhat of the cause of the pain. So we'll look at motion then, okay? So if Jonas, you stand here, face the camera, and if you were just to say squat, everybody squats, whether you sit in a chair and get out of the chair, or you're actually put weight in your back and you're squatting, right? So if he squats down, and go ahead, squat down for me, Jonas. His butt went back first and came back up. Now he's squatting deeper, he's showing off. But go down to like a 90-degree stop right there. Now, right now his knee's bending the way it's supposed to, just forward and back. If his knee buckles in, what's happening is now he's getting more pressure on the outside of his knee, okay? If he comes out too far, he's getting more pressure on the inside of his knee, okay? So we want to make sure those knees stay right over the toes, okay? This also happens in jumping, right? And we've all seen it. We've seen it where people jump and the knees click together. Again, twisting of the knee in a position it shouldn't be twisted in is something we got to work on. There's plenty of different causes of that, muscular weakness, just general mechanics, and we can work on those things. But today, that would take a whole nother video. We're just going to stay with just how do I take and reduce my pain today? So that's what I want to work on now, okay? If your body starts to have pain with any of these movements, you got to look at that. Like, let's say Jonas was shooting hoops, and every time he shot a basket, his right knee buckled in real hard. And he goes, man, Nick, my right knee hurts all the time. I would look at that movement and say, let's try to figure out how we can stop that from happening so much that it could be contributing to your pain, and then try it. If he shoots around and his pain is reduced because he controlled where that knee is, we found something that can help him. Sound good? All right. So then let's talk about ankle pain, okay? So moving on from the knee, again, lots more with the knee, but moving on to the ankle. Two things that I see a lot, they talk about shin splints, they talk about Achilles pain, that kind of stuff, right? They also sometimes just talk about pinching pain in the front of their ankle. So here's the two tricks I want to show you guys when it comes to stretching for your ankle that most people don't know, okay? So Jonas, I'm going to pull this over here. So if I asked you, Jonas, facing this way, if I asked you to stretch your calf, how would you stretch your calf? You might do it that way, right? Now what I want you to do is do it where your foot's behind you, so back here, okay? That one look familiar? That one's mostly what everyone does. That's stretching pretty much this whole muscle straight through. If we bend our knee, we stretch it a little differently. This knee. There you go, right? But now, one of my physical therapists, or one of the physical therapists that works here, she's fantastic, she taught me this extra addition. which is, I want you to go back in that position. But if we want to stretch this part inside, okay? I want you to take this foot and put it over here. And then push it down that way. Do you feel that stretch there a little bit differently? Yeah. Okay? Shin splints happen at times is when the muscle that connects here runs down, around, and underneath your foot. Arch flattens, can cause some pulling at that bone and cause some soreness. This is actually a really good way to stretch that. If you're ever having shin splint pain, I want you to try this one. It's pretty amazing. Otherwise, the other one is just the other way. So we call this a three-way ankle stretch, or probably went out of frame. Three-way ankle stretch. So go out to the side there. Yep. So he's going to stretch for probably about 20 seconds, 30 seconds there. Then he's going to go straight behind him, stretch there. Then he's going to cross over to this side and stretch there. Okay? It's a really nice way of getting all the fibers of your muscles stretched. Okay? The other one is when people get into pain, whether it's after, sometimes after ankle surgeries, sometimes it's after just a lot of decel in sports. You see pain like in the front of their ankle. What happens is their ankle kind of gets, for lack of a better term, jammed. And so what we use is you can use belts, or here we're going to use a band, okay? And what I'm going to have you do, Jonas, is I'm going to connect this right here. I want you to do is put your, let's say your left foot is the one having the issues. Put your left foot in here, okay? I want you to back it up a little bit, okay? So you feel that pressure. You feel that? Now, do not pick that foot up, because it'll come out, okay? What I want you to do is step that one back a little bit, okay? All I need you to do with this pressure on is bring your knee forward and back, okay? Forward and back, probably about 10, 15 times with as much pressure as you can get out of either a belt or a band doing this. You'll actually feel the movement more when you're going backwards. I couldn't tell you how many times I've shown this to people that I say, my ankle's been sore for like 3 weeks, and they do this one time and they're like, how do I do this at home? So belt, band, one or the other. Again, not picking your foot up so it wipes you out, right? That's another good little trick, okay? Moving on, I want to talk about back pain, okay? So again, lots of other ankle injuries, but let's move on to back pain. So there's a lot of muscles in your back that can cause soreness. One is your QL. It kind of connects. This is when people say, it hurts like right here and kind of goes up my back, okay? Backs are very complicated. We have some amazing physical therapists that work here that deal and work at our clinics that deal with backs. So again, you want to find one, we can definitely help you with that here. But there's one stretch I like, and it's for that quadratus lumborum muscle. I want you to lay on your back, Jonas. As long as they can see you there. I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay. I want you to bring your knees up. Level 1, and just put your feet down. Level 1 is just rocking side to side. Okay? Arms out your side. Okay, rock side to side. So for good, easy one if it's sore before you get out of bed in the morning. Level 2, Jonas, I want you to rock this to the side, if you guys can see that. Okay? And then if you can feel a stretch kind of right here, right? Take this foot and just hold that leg down. Okay? Feel a stretch a little more?
Yeah.
Again, gradual. Now, put your right hand behind your head and just bring your elbow over. Relax and slowly come back to a stretch. Doesn't have to be that far. Slowly come back to stretch. This might be too advanced for some of you to have this here. You might just leave the leg down. But as he goes through, he can do 10 of those nice, easy repetitions or even just a hold. Okay? Do that both sides. Make sense? Okay, perfect. I'll send Jonas back over socially distanced away from me. And then we'll talk about a couple other things here. Okay? Next one that I have on my list that I can see is going to be upper body, like maybe like a tennis elbow. Okay? So as far as tennis elbow goes, everyone, even talking with one of our hand surgeons here, he'll say, a lot of people will come to him saying, I think I need surgery on my elbow. There's a few little neat tricks for tennis elbow that seem to work really well. If there is no active swelling, like you don't get done with a day and your elbow is swollen, try heat on it first. Heat seems to take that tendonitis, which tennis elbow is just this muscle in here on the top of your wrist that lifts your wrist up, getting really sore, okay? And that tendon's getting kind of irritated. If we heat it, it tends to settle it down. Number 2 is probably my favorite thing I learned from an occupational therapist here, is that if you have your hands straight out, this is how most people tell you to stretch. What I want you to see is what I do differently here. Turn your elbow underneath. You turn your elbow underneath, that muscle gets a lot more of a stretch, but again, nothing too intense, okay? Holding that 20 to 30 seconds is an amazing stretch for that. And then for about a week, if you are doing anything with your wrist on that side, you want to do it very, very slowly to let that muscle heal up. So heat, stretch, and actually move slowly. If after a week, then you move a little bit faster with your movements. And if after a week after that, you move into more rapid movements. And if it seems like it's sore again, you go back a step to either moderate or slow speed. Next one I want to go through is shoulder, okay? Shoulder, there's way more we can talk about, but just get done with the day and your shoulder's a little sore. 2 things I like to do is, one of them in particular is a pendulum exercise, which is just having you hang your arm here, let it relax. You have to let it relax. It looks like I'm doing this, but actually what I'm doing is relaxing, just letting my body move in a circle. All those rotator cuff muscles that are holding my humerus in their joint are finally able to relax and settle down. So a really good one for your shoulder as well. I felt like there was another one for the shoulder. Another one is actually more of a posture drill. It's more of a muscle memory type of drill. I've had a really good success with this. So we all know, and most of us, now that we're sometimes more Zoom meetings and sitting at a computer, we're sometimes rounding forward. That causes all kinds of pinching up in the shoulder. So being in a position where we can get our shoulders back into a position here is what we want to work on. So what I made was, again, a false wall here. And what I'm going to do is show you just a drill that tends to work well for me and for the people I've given it to. You sit up against the wall, nothing like a big wall sit, but just here. And my hands just relax here. I try to bring my shoulders back and down. I sit a little bit, so I try to get my back just so it's not arching, just flat on there. And I'll actually hold this for 3 minutes. If I hold this for 3 minutes, nothing too intense, I come out and my body actually will have a little bit more muscle memory to hold that nice position or reset what I was feeling in the first place. I've had people have success with this when they're in their car, just to reset their shoulders back versus being here. Okay, that's every age, all different people. So the other thing I want to talk about is these are all different injuries where we stretch. We look at movement patterns for the shoulder, overhead, reaching overhead too far, or always slouched over, causing pinching in the shoulder as well. Tennis elbow is more repetitive behavior with any kind of racket type activity is where you see it a lot as well. That's why it's tennis. We also see it in golf as well. Sometimes even shaking hands just bothers you. So figuring out what that activity is that's bothering you. Back pain, whether you're bending over wrong or not. Again, we could go through a million different reasons why biomechanically you're having those issues. But again, come on in, let's take a look, see if we can figure out exactly what works best for you. Some of these might just be able to help you. The last but not least is just overuse. Sometimes we can do everything right, but if we do too much, it can also be sore. A good example is I've had a few kids that have come through my rehab class and group training time that I have here, and they tell me they have pain. And I come to find out they would actually do their exercise in the morning and then come back here and do them again. And I said, no, that's too much. We need to settle down and just do what we're supposed to do and not overdo it. Also, this time of the year, you might end up seeing that yourself where, normally I go to work and I come home, play with the kids, or I go to practice, I do this, but now I got yard work and I got to put everything away and I got to do a million different things. Everything hurts, right? So we need to figure out if we need to just take a little bit of time and work on some of the flexibility and resting exercises as well. So we talked a little bit about those injuries. I know I probably missed stuff. I got my piece of paper here that I'm looking at going, I'm probably sure I missed stuff, but I'm sure I'm at a pretty good amount of time as well too. So There are additional resources here that you can come to. Like I said, myself and my staff will do one-on-one consultations to see what fits best for you. There's no charge for those. We have a injury assessment area, free walk-in clinic downstairs where athletic trainers can take a look at an injury that you're having, either refer you out to talk to one of us, refer you to therapy, have you see a doctor, or send you home with some specific exercises for you. Obviously, we have fantastic physicians, fantastic physical therapists, amazing technology that you really just got to see here. And then different classes for myself would depend on what you feel like your need is, whether it be one-on-one or like a group rehab class to fit into. So again, the easiest way to do it is the number will be on the screen, I'm sure, at some point here, and you can give us a call. We can answer those questions and get you set up to come in and talk. Either come in, or we can definitely talk over the phone as well. So if those resources there for you, but I want to again thank you guys for joining me tonight. Being live, you can't start, stop, and redo things, so hopefully you did okay. And again, any questions, let me know. Thanks. Have a good night.